Anna Soubry, she's a Tory MP making quite the splash. Is she no a fan of Brexit? Not a fan at all. But she's someone who is very, very outspoken about her views, very, very eloquent about them. I think she's absolutely fascinating. So we're going to have a chat with her about the big defining issue of our time for a very long time, Brexit. Politics at the moment. Anna, where do you begin?
These are very, very disturbing times. I've never known anything like it. We seem to have abandoned free speech in this country, and I know that sounds quite dramatic, but I think that's true.
In what way?
So, for example, the government has decided that we are no longer to embrace the principle of the free movement of people, because the government is determined to bring down the immigration figures. The only way that they will reduce the figures on paper is if we actually take overseas students out of the figures, which they should be. And the only other way that you actually reduce the number of people coming to our country to work is by trashing the economy. The principle of reducing immigration, controlling it, which is actually reducing it, is on the absolute altar. And the sacrifice for that has been the membership of the single market, despite the huge benefits that it has brought our country, and indeed membership of the customs union. We haven't had a single debate on those three most important parts of the European Union. Not one debate in Parliament, never mind a vote. And that makes me, I think that's appalling.
Why do you think immigration has become the prism through which we see so many of the problems in society? I mean, I'm from Stockport, which narrowly voted Remain, but that included the suburbs. The part of Stockport I'm from voted to leave.
Yeah,
about 2%,
white working class.
2% foreign born.
Yeah, hardly ever seen anybody. Well, because
why is that?
Why? Because we have never made the argument. You and I know they talk about sovereignty and Parliament regain, all this rubbish. But for a huge swathe of people who voted leave, it was about immigration. I've not heard the stuff that was said to me in, say, Nottingham Market Square since the 70s. Look at the result in Nottingham. Look at it and analyse it. The middle class areas where I lived, in the inner city of Nottingham, voted Remain. All the white working class areas in the around voted leave, traditional Labour areas. I think that some of that debate has been, middle class people, if you like, chattering amongst ourselves about the benefits of immigration because we love all the spices and all the things that we can enjoy and the lovely restaurants and everything else. And that debate has not really been extended throughout the whole of our country. And one of the reasons for that, and this is, you may disagree with me, is because too many Labour politicians cannot speak to their own constituents. They are totally disconnected.
From their constituents?
They are. Look at Tristram. I mean, I liked Tristram Hunt. I mean, he has met working class people, when they've washed his windows or, done his garden. Well, it's true.
But isn't it just the case that you and I, for example, on this issue, on which we have lots of agreement, have just lost the argument? If you look at the polling, about 75% of the country...
Yeah, but you don't give up on it, do you?
If you were to make a pithy case for freedom of movement, because it's so unpopular, why it's so wildly unpopular now?
But most people don't understand it. When you say to them, right, throw down the challenge, go to Boston, as I have done, don't like all these immigrant workers. Who the frick's going to do all the work in the Lincolnshire fields? They won't be out there getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go and cut ruddy cauliflowers. That's the reality of it. And nobody makes that argument and says to people, all right then, tell you what, we'll send them all home, because that's what people think is going to happen. They're all going to be sent home. Who's going to do the work?
Do you not hold responsible, in large part, the leaders of a Leave campaign who, cynically, in some cases, used anti-immigration rhetoric?
Yes.
But that includes your colleagues, of course.
Absolutely. I will never forgive Boris for what he did, because I don't think he believed it at all. We know that he wrote, two versions of a newspaper article. I think he did it for his own personal advancement to become leader of the party. Nobody was more shocked than he was when he actually delivered leave. They were part of a campaign that very cleverly and very coldly knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew when obviously they knew when the immigration figures were going to come out. They knew when the postal votes were going to come out. They didn't almost need to say very much. They could, I don't know how to describe it, but it was just like the figures came out and they just very gently just went, poof, off you go, let it roll away. And the tragedy disgrace was that I was told, no, we are not debating immigration. I mean, that is a fact. I was invited onto the Jeremy Vine programme to discuss immigration on the day that the figures came out. I rang number 10 and I said, can I do it? And they said, no, we are not doing immigration. And I towed the line. I took their advice on it. I went against my own instincts and I said, okay, then I won't, I'll tell them no. So I put my hands up.
Is it not the case, we look at David Cameron's responsibility, he passionately made the case for lower immigration. He very rarely spoke about any positive consequences of immigration, and at the same time, he promised to cut those numbers, whilst we ended up with numbers which were higher.
I'll never forget when he announced the tens of thousands. I don't think it was in the 2010 manifesto, actually. I think he said it in a TV debate, because I've always remembered Nick Clegg's reaction, which was just complete astonishment. And Nick sort of said, no, hang on a moment, you can't do that. You know you can't do that because we have free movement of EU workers. This is not possible. You mustn't tell this to people. But no, I agree with you.
Because, I mean, your view is that Labour should be making a strident, passionate case in their best traditions.
Yeah, what us do as well. The point is, my party's always been divided on these matters. My party includes a number of people who don't agree with me at all. The Labour Party has been a beacon of liberalism on these issues. But that's why I get so cheesed off with it, because people like Emily Thornberry one moment talks, as her leader Corbyn does, about believing in the free movement of people, the positive benefits of immigration, and then she says, her words, Labour wouldn't die in a ditch for the free movement of people.
But on terms of anti-immigration rhetoric...
What a betrayal!
In a democracy, what's supposed to happen is people obviously disagree with each other, but treat disagreement as legitimate. What we've seen since the referendum is people, Ramona, this sense of if you dissent, if you disagree, you're almost treasonous.
Oh yeah, you're a traitor.
Is that not frightening for the future of our democracy? You're being called a traitor.
Oh God, yeah. Of course it is. You're absolutely right. And the other thing is that, have you noticed that if you say you don't approve of something, they say, how dare you want to ban it? And it's like, well, wait on a minute, say you ban it.
Yeah.
I just said I don't agree with it. And I do find it's absolutely astonishing. People say to me, you haven't accepted the rules, all this. I say, I thought we lived in a democracy. I'm expressing my views. You don't agree with me. You have a right to your view and I have a right to my view. I said I'd respect the result. Now, please, could you respect me doing the best, in my opinion, for my constituents? I was really appalled at those headlines, the three papers in particular, about the judges.
Enemies of the people.
Disgraceful, the Daily Mail. Absolutely disgraceful. And I thought it was hilarious. People said to me, what? We believe in a free press. I said, I'm not saying they don't have the right to publish it. I just think it's appalling and I wish they hadn't done it.
You have the right to express your view about that. That's how free speech works.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely wrong. I mean, it is appalling. They are bully boys. They do tend to be boys, by the way.
Of course they are.
But it's this horrible hectoring bullying that has broken out in our country's politics, and it's appalling. And I think, after Joe Cox was murdered, there was this outpouring of grief, actually, I think, amongst anybody even half decent. And it was that everybody said, whoa, we are now going to reset the dial and we are going to do politics differently. Exactly. That lasted about, a week?
I don't think we talk about it enough. There was one of your fellow parliamentarians was murdered last year. You've received threats of violence, death threats and all the rest. Doesn't that worry you in terms of what's happening in this country?
Absolutely. I thought the seeds of prejudice had been almost extinguished by tolerance, and as we as a society had moved forward and talked about and stopped some of the racism which I remember as a child, and the discrimination and stereotyping of women or gay people, whatever it may be, a much more tolerant society. And I thought, we'd made huge progress, and it's like we're going backwards. And that's what came out in the EU referendum debate. Was, hate crime in my county of Nottinghamshire is still higher today than it was before the referendum. And I think that British principle of tolerance has sort of been removed, and people now say stuff which they wouldn't have said. And the terrible thing is that people don't challenge them. So if a constituent of mine says, oh, I'm really fed up with all these immigrants around here, I always go, really? Where? Where are they? Because we hardly have any immigrants in Broxtowe, my constituency. So I'm prepared to have a debate with them. I call them out.
What do they say when you do that?
Well, I'll say, what? What do you mean? We haven't got any. Oh, but they're coming. I said, what do you mean they're coming? What do you mean? And these are genuine conversations. What do you mean they're coming? Well, you know, I said, no, genuinely don't know what you mean. I said, I do know that people from other countries come here, but overwhelmingly they come here to work. You do know that, don't you? Oh, well, a lot of scrounge. No, twice as many British-born people claim benefits than people from overseas. See, that's the challenge. You take it on, look them straight in the eye, and then, as some do, some will say to me, well, I'm fed up with all these. You know what I'm talking about. No, I don't. You know what I'm talking about. No, I don't. All those Jamaicans are saying, now I'm getting your drift. I said, I just don't think you like people who are black. Yeah, well, I'm not going to vote for you. And I actually have said to constituents, you know what? I'm really pleased. I don't want your vote.
Wow.
And that's brave when you had a majority of 389, as I first did. But of course you do that. You ought to be true to what you believe in.
Are you worried your party's turning into Ukip-lite?
I'm worried that certain people think that that's the way that we advance, and they are profoundly wrong in the wake of the uselessness of the Labour Party.
Big fan of the Labour Party at the moment.
I'm a big fan of certain people in the Labour Party who I like hugely. I respect them. I think the leadership, and I said your leadership, the leadership of the Labour Party
I'm my own leadership,
is
thank
an
you.
absolute disgrace. They are useless. They are not doing the job. They actually receive £5 million, I think it is, of taxpayers' money to do.
But
they're incompetent. They're just useless, and it makes me very, very angry that people, frankly, who will never vote for me are being so let down, and the government's not being held to account. It's left to a group of Tories to be the unofficial opposition to try and hold government to account.
Nigel Farage keeps tweeting, praising Theresa May and saying she's saying all the things that he's believed for years. Doesn't that worry you? That Nigel Farage basically thinks that the Conservative Party is now implementing his agenda.
Well, she certainly signed up to deliver Brexit, that's true. But
there's Brexit and there's Brexit,
Farage
isn't there?
is just playing games. I mean, this is the way he does things. He plays games. You win by inhabiting the centre ground. As soon as you start trying to be something that you're really not to people, they're not stupid. They see through that.
Donald Trump. Now, I'm sure you'll say, look, it's a matter for the American people who they vote for.
No, I think he's ghastly.
That's better.
This is a man who's admitted sexually assaulting women and thinks it's cool not to pay your taxes. And what's really scary is I think we were told, weren't we? We were told, no, the people who voted for him never actually believed he was going to do any of the stuff, It was just the elite and the media who believed it, and that they never thought people would vote for him. Oh, holy moly. Wrong all round, because he is actually doing it. He's actually going to build a wall. Mind you, he's going to get the American people. I don't seem to have worked this out. They're paying for the wall, because the tariffs on Mexican goods are paid by the American people.
Yeah.
And I mean, all this stuff on this executive order, banning people from these 7 countries, it's despicable, stomach churning.
Do you think Theresa May failed to speak out?
She got there. Look, we were in a difficult position. We're in a difficult position because we're about to walk away from the world's biggest free trade area, the single market that is within the European Union and beyond. And we are looking now to somehow make good the great harm we're going to do our economy.
But that's because...
So we need a deal with America. He is the president.
No, but that's because Theresa May's made a decision to leave the single market. She doesn't have to.
No, I agree with you. Well, I agree with you.
But isn't that the logic? Because of Theresa May's position, this country is going to end up allied to Donald Trump's America in a very strong way.
No, I think we're very, very careful. There's a bit of hysteria going on in the left about this. Be very, very careful. They are our special ally. We have that special relationship. We would always have that. And we would always have to respect the fact that he is the president and do business with him and maintain that special relationship. It's just that we have to hold our noses and everything else in doing that.
What hope is there for this country? It's so divided in so many different ways, whether it be Scotland, whether it be the results of the referendum. I mean, it has never been this divided in post-war
Then
periods.
it is for the duty is on all of us to lead. You lead in your constituencies. You make the case for a more tolerant, decent society. So one of the things that I'm about to do, we will go to schools and we will talk to young people and we will start to make the positive case for the rich diversity in our society that we should be very proud of.
Says what she means, doesn't she? I'm a big fan. Don't agree with her on a lot of things, to say the least. But there's lots where I think she's she's actually quite courageous, and I like courage in politics. There's maybe not as much of it as there should be. So I want to hear exactly what you think, so do leave those comments. We've got loads of interviews somewhere, click on them somewhere. We've got loads more to come. That's what this is all about, interviews and, you know, all the stuff. So as ever, subscribe. I'll see you next time.